Aloha, colleagues. Okay, in this week's reading, we read in Ting Tumi and Chung, How Can We Manage Intercultural Conflict Flexibly? And, there was a lot of very interesting information, particularly, between individualistic cultures and collectivist cultures, and there were some great stories about different intercultural conflicts and some tests on that and some solutions to intercultural conflicts. I primarily want to focus on the Daughter of Dang Young video, which I found to be quite fascinating. I watched it a few times. Um, yeah, what I think about that video is I think that all of those people, probably unlike the rest of my colleagues who might see this as an unsuccessful thing, I think it was hugely successful, right? I mean, this young lady who grew up in the South, she was the daughter of this serviceman. She was of mixed race, and her mom was Vietnamese, and she got taken by the by the U.S. government in this horrific baby lift, which they weren't all babies, and there was that terrible depiction of that volunteer person just persuading people to give up their babies and saying that we were going to take care of them and bring them back. It was a very disturbing film without any question. But I think as far as we're concerned, in our intercultural studies, this young lady really did everything correctly, and so did her family. Just look at the different pieces of it. She learns how to say hello and I love you, mom, on the airplane. She, goes and partakes in the culture and, hugs her mom, lets her mom cry on her. She's goes to the market with her mom. She brought gifts for her mom. So, and her mom was missing her, and she was missing her mom, throughout their life. So I think it was great that they had that connection. And I disagree with the daughter that, she wishes it never happened. I honestly can't believe that. I think that on some deeper level, she was missing a certain amount of love in her life, and knowing that her mother didn't give her up because she was bad. I think that ultimately that was resolved, and that will remain resolved in her life. I like the fact that she talks about how, in the U.S. household, which again, is very individualistic per household, they were very her adoptive mom was very ineffectual and, to say the least. But, there was no hugging and close physical contact. She gets used to all of those things, in Vietnam. Okay, so finally, let's get to the punchline of this story, right? So the punchline of the story is that they confront her about taking care of her mom. And because in Vietnamese culture, that is what is expected. Now, and she is just horrified by this and appalled and outraged, and leaves and is never able to really resolve this issue. So you would think that this was this was a cultural difference, and I don't think it's a good example of a cultural difference at all. First of all, there are a lot of individualistic families that they have expectations that their children will take care of them in their old age. And it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the fact that her mother gave her up for adoption, and didn't know her for 22 years and didn't take care of her for 22 years and put her through school and all of these things. It's true, our mother took care of her when she was a baby, which she barely has a recollection of, and she says how much she appreciates her mom, and she buys her gifts, and she shows her love. But is she obligated to take care of her mom based on the Vietnamese culture? Doesn't that seem like a stretch to you? I mean, her mom didn't raise her. And actually, the most fascinating part to me was that the rest of the siblings, which they come around eventually also, but the mom says right away, I would be angry if I raised you your whole life and then you turned your back on me. But you grew up somewhere else in a different culture and someone else taking care of you, so I really cannot be angry at you. My prompt question is, do you think it's a good example, this conflict that they had at the end of an intercultural conflict? Because I don't think it's a good example, and I think that ultimately, I think it will be resolved over time. I believe what she says, that she didn't shut the door. And so I believe they're on their way to a resolution, and that both the family and the daughter, tried very hard to be culturally competent, and they were very successful ultimately. How do you feel about that? Do you have the same take as me or something completely different? Aloha, colleagues.